Hello. Believe we are on here. I saw the flickering down there. Okay. So let's change the, not change anything. Let's link the stream. And I think we might get right into it because there's a lot to talk about. What's been going on lately? Been playing One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 because there's been some DLC for that. I'm close to finishing Extraordinary Attorney Woo, which is the K-drama I've been watching, the only real K-drama that I've ever watched. Because I don't really consider Squid Game to be like a K-drama. And I don't know what else is up. Been getting through some other stuff in the backlog. New Super Mario Bros. U and the Luigi DLC. Tears of the Kingdom. I've still been doing some stuff in. I'm still linking. It is Monday, me dudes. Yes, me doodles. It is. That sounds cringe. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Zatch Bell Gamer, what's up? Yeah, a little bit of a weird day for doing this. I don't know how many Mondays I've done in the past, but I just had to wait for the right time, and I just forgot to do it yesterday. So I have Mondays off, so it's fine for me. I don't know if you can hear my air conditioner. Makes what sounds like a knocking noise a little bit. That one was me, but if you hear it, that's what it is. If I'm coming in okay, then I think we should all be good to get going. So I have the chapter pulled up. I also have some tweets pulled up. Let me find Raiku's tweet on the chapter. Here it is. And I have a couple other tweets related to the chapter. So I guess we should just get started. This is chapter 16. If you remember last month, I had some issues with some of the events and the pacing of the events that had happened in the series. So I was very interested to see how this chapter would kind of address those. And as I kind of expected, it sort of did address those, Raikou was speeding through that last fight for a reason. And I don't know if we've entirely gotten to the reason yet, but things are starting to take shape and sort of address some of the concerns I had. So we'll get into that. So to start, Megumi is entertaining the kids Tio was protecting with what appears to be some kind of jingle. The second song about food that we have seen in this series so far. Munch Crunch, Yummy Shaved Ice. Strawberry Lemon, Blue Hawaiian, It's Frozen Paradise. Hey, something like that, maybe? Angel Food, Vanilla, hey, 2 scoops in a bowl, only 400 yen, yay. So it's clearly a jingle. She's probably in a commercial for this thing, for the shaved ice. So she remembers that. This other adult Momoto is complimenting Megumi. So she's a pop idol back in the human world. So no wonder she's a big hit with the kids. Then the kids are talking to Kyo, saying, is this scrawny-looking guy really the king's partner? Kyo says, watch your mouth or I'll give you the Zakara treatment. Classic Kyo. Tia steps in to defend him. Everyone, the king's Bowser spell may have been stolen by the enemy, but this is a human who can bring it out naturally through the power of his heart. Kids are like, whoa, for real? Amazing. That's such a major item, mister. And Kyo says, in what way is it an item? I don't know what the source of that joke is, if it's supposed to be something akin to it being a video game. I don't really know. Makes me think of something like Dragon Quest, though. So we have Tia's assistant. Her name was Layla or something like that. And, you know, Zatch is saying, oh, okay, well, we can't use Bao, but, you know, the kids probably don't care. This lady is making some sort of transmission. She's writing something down, some coordinates or something. She says, yes, it's on the way. Tia, a rescue ship is coming. It's Federnal number 224. I don't know if they have 224 ships, but approximately 30 minutes until it arrives. And then we transition to outside. They're going towards this ship, probably a while later, if it's 30 minutes. Okay, 400 meters in closing. Everyone hurry to the site where they'll pick us up. Lily actually has a superfan on the subreddit. Okay, well, that's good for her. They can't just come meet us here. The ship only shows up at specific places by using a special transportation method. We better not be late, because if it stays out in the open for too long, the enemy's bound to notice. And Kyo wonders, a special transportation method. Okay, now, if you didn't, it's fine. But I did have an idea right when they started talking about this, what would be happening. So that was cool. Of course, if you had looked at the leak scans, you would have had no idea what they were even talking about until it was shown. So, Justin, welcome. They arrive in an empty field, rocky, some small hills. So where is it? I don't see nothing. Is it almost here yet? You think they want us to come over there, maybe? Tia goes, stop! Don't take another step. And the portal opens up, and a massive ship emerges. And this is a ship that, both due to it coming out of the portal and due to the strange diamond-shaped things that it has on it, seems pretty clearly associated with the Mamoto Gorm, or Gomu, as he has sometimes been called in the past. It's a Gorm ship, or a Gorm-mobile, as Doodle said. I like the chapter. I did too, Justin. And it's a little hard to tell exactly how big it is. But it seems pretty dang big. And everyone who hadn't seen it before is pretty surprised to see it. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty huge. You can see on the second panel here on this next page, page 7. The orb on the front isn't really enough to fit many people, so that might be more decorative. But I don't know. Like, you would think, like, if it was huge, that the entire bridge would be, like, in that orb. I don't think it's quite big enough for that, but it might be. So we are greeted. Just got a text. We are greeted by a Mamoto that looks a lot like Fado's Heart Guardian. I don't think it is, but it does look a lot like him. Can I turn this up so the glare won't be as much, or maybe turn it down? He says, my king, you've done a marvelous job escorting your people here. Zatch goes, thanks a lot. Was everybody able to get on the ship okay? Right then, time to depart. Ship goes back in the portal. So Kyo knows what's going on. He says, this black portal, is it Gorm's handiwork? There's a nice picture of Gorm for those who don't remember. Tia says, yep, you guessed it. But Gorm isn't here on the ship, though. He keeps himself hidden in one spot, but he's still able to make portals in all these different places for us to move around in. This is a great usage of Gorm. Cool way to reintegrate him back into the story without directly fighting. He's one who would obviously be able to survive the attack, so it makes sense for them to use him in this way. It also explains quite how quite so many Mamoto were able to survive, which is a question that I had, especially last chapter, when we kept, during Tio's chapter, where we kept seeing more Mamoto had survived. I do have a question of how is Gorm smart enough to know this? I don't really know to know how to do this. He's been said to have very low intelligence. He can't speak, even though he's probably much older than Ponygon or Rops. But we don't actually know how old he is. He could be very young, for all we know. So Q says, that's incredible. I'm sure glad he's on our side now. Yes, indeed. I think it's pretty interesting. Sort of a minor reveal that I would say is can be gleaned from this is that the diamond, it looks like a jewel, but I imagine if you looked at it up close, it would probably show as being some sort of jelly, sort of a see-through jelly-like substance. It might be as hard as a jewel, though, for all we know. And it's I think it's yellow colored. Am I right about that? In art of Gorm. I always thought that was maybe where he sees things or senses things, because it's where a face would be on a person. But going by the fact that they are on the ship, it seems like it's possible that having that might be what enables him to move through these portals. That might be where his ability comes from. Maybe. So it's refreshing to see the heroes form sort of organized resistance against overpowered villains. Yeah, of course. And good sequel, plot always, of course, and everyone's got a band together now. Heroes, the villains. But according to the scholars who've been doing the research, it'll only be a matter of time until demons start to lose their innate powers too. So that's interesting. It puts a little bit of a time limit on this, though we don't know if we'll see that happen in this story. They won't stop until they've taken everything from us. The portal starts to open. The Fado's heart-looking Moto says, we're here. Get ready to exit. We see this massive rock, maybe coral-like structure that we saw at the end of last chapter is in front of them. It almost looks like one of those big termite nests that you see. They build them up. Well, it's gigantic. Let me this here. This whole mountain is one big shelter. This is the sacred land of the Dragon Clan. They call it the Dragon Fort. At this point, it's the only stronghold we have left for the surviving demons. I'm not really sure if Zatch knows this before they get there. Maybe he doesn't, because you'd think he would have told Kyo about it. Ship lands. This way, Your Majesty. Suddenly, boom, another spread. Some beautiful, beautiful art here. And I don't know how many people reading the series. I know a lot of us on the Discord know because, we see each other's discussion. I don't know how many people outside of that and who are just sort of more casual readers know that this is sort of a thing that Raiku's been doing of including guest artists in the series. He's only done it a few times. I know that landscapes in Zatch Bell 2 are generally drawn mostly by the assistants, according to the volume credit pages. But there are 3 instances so far where guest artists have been used. There's only been 2 guest artists in total, I believe, that I remember so far. But I have a feeling, since it's been a recurring thing, we're going to continue to see it. And I think, it's something that you could easily say is like unfortunate, oh, I want to see Raikou draw these things. Oh, it's weird if Raikou was getting readers to think he drew this when he actually didn't. Now, Raikou is not doing that. He's very forward about it on Twitter. However, you wouldn't know it just from reading the chapter. Raikou is not drawing these very beautiful, detailed, almost watercolor sort of art here. Now, something Raikou did draw is the actual characters at the bottom. And I believe some of the dragons, too. I can check that right now. If that is in the original art. And no, yeah, the dragons were drawn by Raikou and his assistants as well. The dragons flying around in the Dragon Fort. Akio is really amazed. Very amazed. And the artist who drew this is called Rek. And he also drew the spread of the villain headquarters from a previous chapter. Raikou in an injury or illness. Justin, Raikou's always tweeting about being in a bad way or sick or hurt. I personally, it hasn't impacted things too much aside from the occasional delay. I think Raikou partly just tweets his concerns and his stresses like that and maybe exaggerates a little bit. I also just think, obviously being a manga artist is hard, which is, I think the reason he has several assistants who help him out with this. I mean, a lot of manga artists do that, but I get the impression that Raikou does rely on his assistants a lot, which is fine. And, when Raikou is feeling in too bad of a way, the manga goes on break, which has happened a few times. But I wouldn't particularly worry about him tweeting about feeling this and that. He also has the hobby of biking, which I believe, even though it's doesn't require too much body movement, probably is still pretty physically demanding in some ways. So, and it can also just get you hurt when the bike crashes, which has also happened to Raikou. It doesn't tend to worry me too much. I think he tweets like that. He's just one of those guys who tweets like that, like, oh boy, I'm dealing with this again. Yeah. So the artist who drew this, Rek, has tweeted a couple times about it. And he posted a version of the art without the characters. So he said, hey, very excited to do it. I put a lot of detail into it. I can probably link this in the chat here. And then he has another tweet where he talks a little bit about his process. So we're going to read that. So Rek, who drew this, tweeted, by the way, the thing I paid the most attention to when drawing this painting was the way the light was applied. And this is translated through Google Translate, so it might not be perfect. I needed to create a grand space, so I used shadows and strong oblique light in the foreground. From there, I made a sandwich, funny way to put it, with shadow, then a bright area, then shadow, and then another bright area. This is a technique that allows you to effectively see the space by making it look like this. So you can see that a little in practice, where it seems like the stuff closest to the characters is lit up. The area behind that is more in shadow, and then the area behind that is lit up again. Almost a rule of thirds a little bit. That's a famous term in the art world, including the movie making world, which I've studied. But yeah, I mean, it's a very beautiful spread. I do wonder how much guidance Raikou applies on these, because it's still, there's a certain design sense of it that does make it look like it is in the Momoto world. It's sort of unified in that regard. And there's a lot of waterfalls. You can tell this is inside a cave, but there's openings where the sun comes in. And let me look at some of these color palettes we have for these people. I don't know if we can see what Lily's is like. We do see the bear guy wearing blue. We see the big gorilla guy who is yellow. We see the Photo's heart guy who is mostly silver or white. And we see some lizard. I'm not sure who he is. I don't know if you can see Lily here, though. We see Tia, which, I mean, for the first time, we see Tia's post-time skip colors, which are still lightly her old colors. I'm not sure what it's not really a skirt that comes down, but it looks like it's still lightly pink, sort of a more subdued pink. Gives a hint of what we might find on the cover to the next volume. So continuing on, here says every inch is red. It's a city built completely out of red rock. Zatch says, do you recognize what shade of red this is, Kiyomaro? He doesn't seem to. Now this is leading to something, and I think some of us sort of speculated last chapter. We didn't know exactly how big of how far-reaching it would be, but I think some of us did speculate it from taking a look at Acheron. So this dragon lands. I can't tell if this is the same dragon as last chapter. I think it is, right? It looks like him. Your Majesty and Tio-sama, Acheron has been waiting for you. Get in my back. Let's see if we can ask Acheron to explain the whole story for us. Dragon flies them up to a massive opening in the shape of a dragon head. given what we're about to learn, makes you wonder a little about where this opening may have come from in the past. They fly through that and find Acheron sort of on a throne, sort of being the throne, who says, "It's good to have you back, King Gash. Acheron, you sure have grown, haven't you? Kiyamaru, a pleasure to see you again, my friend." Kyo immediately notices, "You are right. What are those spikes protruding from your chest?" He says, "Yes, I am allowing my heart to run rampant and have spread the crimson scales, born of my own flesh and blood, throughout this entire mountainous region." Interesting wording there. We specifically references his heart, and you see the scales coming from his heart. That makes sense, given that human magic, when the humans interface with Mamoto magic, it is through heart power. It's not a big surprise that the Mamoto's use of their own magic would rely on their own heart power. And this, of course, I think is a form of magic doing this, Acheron is best throne. What? You mean this whole city is blanketed in red because of the crimson color of your scales? Not just the city, but the entire mountain? My scales are legendary among the Dragon Clan for their crimson color and their exceptional durability. This is something we learned in the first series. With those very scales protecting this city, there is no ordinary attack that can harm this mountain or its inhabitants. We know that from the first series as well. His scales are nearly invulnerable and are one of the only things that could stand up to Clear Note's attacks, which is why he sort of assigned himself the role of being Clear's main enemy. You've created the strongest shelter there is, but isn't it taking a heavy toll on your body? I am unable to move from this spot. Truth be told, I am unsure if I will even be able to last another year in the state I'm in. So yes, we see, as we saw last chapter, that his limbs are fused to the earth with scales as part of this process. You have to wonder how he eats. Someone's got to get up there and feed him. So you're laying down your own life for the sake of your people. Yes, Acheron is being very kingly here. He's the leader of the Dragon Clan. And if this goes on, he may not last another year. Now, that's not going to happen. We're going to see him fight if Raiku's introducing him this early. Especially, there will probably be a reason for him to stop this in the future. Once again, though, placing a light time limit on how long the Mamoto can hold out against this threat. The last time limit was not specifically stated. This one is also not too specific, but is a sort of window of about a year that Acheron might have left if he continues to do this. If he stopped doing it, would he be able to live as long as he would have before? We don't really know. This is paltry compared to the sheer amount of demons Gash had saved at the cost of his own life. Was Gash-kun really able to save such a large number of demons? So this was a big surprise. Acheron responds to that, indeed. His valiant efforts preserved the lives of nearly 10 million demons in the initial assault we endured. Did you say 10 million? That's outstanding, Gash. So, that's a lot of demons. I think that's more than anyone would have estimated lived in the demon world. It's always been a little unclear how big the demon world was, but I always personally thought it probably was not very big. That it could have I don't know how big I thought it was, but not big at all. I wouldn't think it was as big as most United States would have been my guess. 10,000 also would have been something under 100,000 for sure would have been my guess of the population. But no, the demon was apparently very big. Let's take a rough guess and say 10 million saved. Let's just say if this invasion is to be considered successful, that a majority would have maybe been killed, or a lot would have been killed. Let's be nice and say that 15 million were killed. Okay, so that brings the total up to 25 million, which, I don't know how much the population of most U.S. states is. I know the population of the entire country is right now about 350 million. So it's still pretty small, but that's still a big, big number. I want to see Asheron meet up with Reen again. Yeah, I mean, I think that's very possible. I do wonder what that guy's up to. I don't really know what his whole deal was. He looked like he could have been Yakuza or maybe just some other type of gangster. I don't remember if that was ever hinted at in any way. What was his do we have a page where they met on the volume cover? I don't remember what that would have been. But like I said, I think if we're getting Asheron possibly relatively early in the story, it's still hard to know how long this series is going to be. Later, it's possible for him to start fighting, and Reen would probably be part of that. So we learned that Zatch was busy. He was real busy. We don't know if he did the same thing he did to Zelly and Olmo to these other Momodo, or if he did something different. It sort of seems like he did something different at this point because it had a different effect, like we're about to see. Are all 10 million of them here in the shelter right now? Zatch says, no, you see, it's true that their lives were saved, but their bodies are a different story. Each demon's soul took on the shape of a ball that flew out of their body. And I think a lot of people have, not a lot of people, I've seen a couple people say this demon looks like Don Pacho, the one who fought Barry. I don't think we can really tell or say if it's him. He's dressed similarly for sure. And they're all gathered together in a secret spot where their life forces are being protected. We see this room with a large amount of these soul balls. These are demon souls. Were these what they looked like when the souls were flying around the Momodo world in the first series and they traveled there? Or do they look different now? Where they have these lines on them that cut them into four pieces. We see this hooded woman, sort of like a nun, not an evil nun like the one in movie theaters right now, who is protecting these spell orbs with magic. And there's a lot shown here, but it's still not nearly 10 million. That was a close one. Seriously, originally we thought Kiyomaru asked the question. Gash opened his mouth in protest, and Asheron started speaking for him. So he asked the question of, are all 10 million of them in the shelter? Yeah, I mean, it does. Yeah, you can see the bubble coming from Zatch now. Yeah, the speech bubble stem, yes. Much more eloquent response. That's funny. Well, he is a king after all. So people have speculated, who is this Momodo that's protecting the souls? Could it be a new character? I think a pretty popular Momodo to speculate that it is has been Kalulu, who has not yet been seen up to this point. Now, many of them haven't been seen, but Kalulu hasn't been mentioned. Which would be possible because given her magic, her Shin spell, Shinrai Fogio, that we saw, it was sort of a protection spell, protection field that could protect from nearly anything, it looked like. It could allow people to breathe in space. So it definitely would make sense for it to be her. Presumably, it would be a Momodo who, this is their innate ability to be able to, to do this. Excuse me. And not a spell, because everyone's spells were probably stolen. Does the soul thing include Ted as well? If so, does this mean he isn't exactly dead? It's a very good question. We don't know exactly how the soul saving that Zatch did worked. We don't know if Ted is still a part of these. I think knowing Raikou is an author, he's going to want to bring Ted back to life. That could be through the coffins, though, and not this process. So we don't exactly know what Ted and Cherish and Rain's status is right now. Next page. But even so, I never dared to dream that you would actually breathe life again, Gash, and return to us with Kiyomaru and the book. So we see this other dragon who looks a lot like a chameleon. I wonder if we're going to see this guy again, because he looks pretty distinct. We've received a letter from Ziggy. Ziggy, who is sort of an emissary of Zatch. Now, we don't exactly know much about what his exact role was, but he did not grow up with Zelly and Olmo, right? Neither did Mippy. They were both sent by Zatch. Originally, I'd given up all hope once I'd learned that the ones you entrusted the fragments of your life to were mere children, the ages of 4 and 1. Yes, Zelly and Olmo were right there in front of me. and the spell I learned for saving the lives of fallen demons was pushing my energy to the limit. Restoring the life back into those two smaller bodies was the very most I could do with the power I had left. So once again, sort of raising the question of, is it the same spell? From what Zatch is saying, it kind of seems like, yes, it is. The spell I learned for saving the lives of fallen demons. Probably would have been what he used on the souls too, right? To save the souls. But he brought them just straight up back to life at the cost of his own life. Though, did we see him die directly when he did that? I don't remember. It's a question. I don't know if it's going to be answered. But this chapter does bring up a lot of questions and invites the audience to think about them, which is something that Raikou has not always done. In my view, he hasn't always been an author that wants to go really deep into how things work like that, which I've talked about. I also knew those two kids had very strong wills to live, so even though they're still so young, I was sure they'd work together to get us this far. Some people have asked the question, are Zelly and Olmo chosen in some way? Are they special in some way? This has been asked ever since the beginning. I'm still leaning towards no. I think that Zatch saved them because he just couldn't bear to see them die. And then, you know, the situation as it was led to Ziggy passing his own will to find Kyo onto them. So Tia's listening to all this. Tia says, so you didn't think to tell me that you were going to come back to life? Zatch immediately has the fear of God in him. Let me turn on my ceiling fan here. I don't think it's going to create too much noise. That's right. Gash-kun, how could you do such a thing? Well, we really weren't even sure it would work, Tio. Yes, the rest of the Dragon Clan and I were going to face the enemy ourselves while Gash was away. But it would have taken a miracle for us to overcome those odds. There were too many uncertainties. Asheron's trying to defend Zatch here. Even he seems a little nervous, though. Was entry into the human world even possible? Would the two children carrying Gash's life force manage to survive? Would Kiyomaru be able to uncover the ancient ruins? Don't you think I would have liked to have known all of this? This is a pretty funny face. A little cat-like. You thought you were going to get strangled, Justin. Well, he maybe it's the evolution of him getting strangled now that he's older. Right, he died in his castle, according to Wade. He did kind of imply that, didn't he? The plan was really top secret, I swear. If the enemy knew about it, they might have found Leo's transporter and made it impossible for us to use it. And besides, Tio, you're already so tough and hard to get rid of. Asheron's face is really funny. He's like cringing. And you always talk recklessly whenever things get tense. It doesn't matter if it's to a friend or one of the bad guys. What if you run around yelling, Gash will come back to life and bring Kiyomaru here with him? Or maybe, it's okay, guys. We just have to hold on until the king comes back to life. Kyo and Megumi both know he's sort of digging himself deeper right now. Don't give me that crap, Gash! Do you have any idea how many tears we wasted on your fake death? You know, this is a little hiding her true emotions. You know, obviously she was very emotional about Zatch. You know, she's mad at him. She's also very relieved he's back. But now she's, you know, saying, why did you make me suffer through all of that? I think Zatch's reasons are good, you know. But Tia's very mad. This is something a lot of people wanted to see once Tia came back. So they finally got what they wanted. She grabs him. Kyo yells for Asheron. Just kind of trying to ignore what happens while Tia beats the crap out of Zatch in the background. No sympathy for Zatch from Tia and from Raikou either. They say this is funny, so let's do it. Can you tell me where they are right now? You hear in the background. Again, just trying to ignore it. I will tell you, for this is something that even Gash is not yet aware of. He may not be aware of it now either. I don't know if how well he's listening to this. The enemy's base is in Zealand, which is in the northernmost region of the demon world. There lies the fortress that resembles a tall castle. They are led by the one named Belial. You can see it looks like Megumi is trying to pull Zatch off of Tia, pull Zatch away from Tia in the background. The enemy's army is comprised of many different creatures, but one thing is certain, and this information comes from Barry himself. So we get sort of a surprise appearance from a huge fan favorite character, Barry, Vincent Barry himself. In a flashback, gathering information from a reincarnate creature who was foolish enough to oppose him, thinking that just because he didn't have any spells, he could beat Barry. That is not the case. Just who the hell are you people? God damn it. What the hell is this? How could anyone be so strong? And why would Belial give me such weak vials to work with against a guy like this? Hard to see what's in these vials. You can kind of see a little bit. One of them looks like it could be plants, like Sujino, like a little plant coming from a seed. One of them is a claw of some sort. Could be Leo's power, right? Hard to tell what the others are. Tell me, would you prefer to die now or after you've answered my question? So Barry, we can see, still looks very similar to how he did in the last series. This isn't entirely unexpected. Raikou has not been changing the designs too heavily of characters that were already mostly growing in the last series. But there do seem to be some slight design changes. Barry's sort of skirt part seems to be a little shorter. He seems maybe a little bit beefier. I don't know. Kind of hard to tell. Tornado. It's a tornado. I didn't see a tornado. There's a tornado in there? Oh, you think the claw is a tornado? I guess it could be. Okay, continuing. Okay, I'll talk. Serves that bastard Belial right for making me fight the impossible. We used to be dead. But back when I was alive, I was part of the feared warrior tribe in the land of Agirella. I think he translated this differently in the original, translated it quite humorously, but you ended up changing it. Agirella. I've never heard of this place, so it couldn't be from the demon world. Sort of confirming some stuff we've already lightly heard or assumed before. These people used to be dead. They don't come from the Moto world or the human world. I died in battle, but after wandering around in some strange area for a while, I eventually found myself inside this weird tank filled with liquid. He's taking the form of the core that we saw Wade had. I saw Belial standing right in front of me. And then he said, if you wish to revel in pillaging and violence once more, I will allow you another chance at life. Deal. These guys didn't really know what they were signing up for. Psh, immediately has his body back, okay? So then we see both Gil and Zinc, Levy, getting the same deal. If you wish to continue learning as you once had, if you seek to reunite with your loved ones. So he's presenting this as, hey, I'm just going to give you what you want. No biggie. Of course, it's a deal. They have to do things for him, you know. But I wonder if the others got the same choice I did. Memory's a little foggy, but it was a pretty messed up way to get us to agree, yeah. So it was those walking corpses that slaughtered my kind. Come on, what else you got for me? Oh, the guy's asking this. Ask whatever you want. Where to find Belial? Stuff about my comrades? How many of us there are? Ask away. shatters the core, shatters. It's not really the same as it was when the thing that they shattered to kill Wake. Instead, it's the weird liquid that you tend to see on the designs of these guys. But that blows up and the guy dies. I see. It's possible to kill them off from a remote location. Damn that dirty coward. So we kind of got confirmation on some stuff we knew. Belial has some crazy abilities to bring creatures, dead creatures, back to life from who knows where. Here it says the souls of dead warriors. Zatch, who is looking a little worse for wear due to recent events, says, I've heard something like that before too from my founder. We got a flashback to unknown time, unknown place of Zatch's dad telling him a little about seemingly these invaders. We don't know when this was, if this was after the invasion started, if it was just before, if they had predicted it in some way. If this was just some general thing he was telling them about something that might come and happen in the future. The king, King Bel, says what they need is not mercy. Bear in mind, these are souls that should have been put to rest, long been put to rest, and they have been coerced into fighting a war that is not their own. As such, we must confront them with our minds fully set on returning those unfortunate souls back from whence they came. I understand how you feel, but even in a situation where one must face their own kind, it is the king's responsibility to ensure the safety of his people, even if that means claiming the lives of those who threaten them. So that's sort of echoing what King Bel said, right? I like seeing King Bel again. I wondered if he survived, Justin says. Yeah, I wonder too. We don't know. But what is the reason for trying to exterminate the demon race? Why go to such lengths? That's still a mystery to us. At first, I thought they wanted only to neutralize our magic power. But if that were the case, why seek to destroy the demons themselves? They do not even wish to take our home for their own. And I also have reason to believe that they have begun to enslave our fellow demons. We know this is true. I believe the C-3PO guy from a while back mentioned it, or Belial mentioned it. If Kiyomaru speaks the truth, then surely there must be more than one book that has been restored. How many were you able to revive? Q says 27 in total. I see. That is a commendable amount. So let the speculation begin on who those 27 are going to be. Now, if the books correspond to the coffins, then are those all the 27? One of the 27 kind of has to be Zelly, right? Or will she get her book back a different way? She didn't really have a book in the first place, did she? I don't know. I have a favor to ask of Gash and the rest of you. Will you return to the human world to retrieve more book builders who can aid us in this war? Kyo nods. When I saw this, I was like, yeah! I was like, thank you, Raikou. I was very vocal last month about not really wanting them to be in the Momoto world for the rest of the story. I didn't think it was time. I thought there was a lot more to see in the human world. You know, I had a good idea that this would happen anyway, just because of how much there was still clearly to be done in the human world. We haven't seen Apollo again yet. We haven't seen what happened with the coffins. All the human partners are there that we know and love. However, that doesn't mean it was not extremely nice to see. It immediately stated on our second chapter back in the Momoto world, let's go back to the human world very soon. You know, this trip to the Momoto world was largely for exposition purposes and not for action purposes. It was great to see. Made the whole thing make sense. Reversed a good amount of my complaints from last month, and I'm a happy guy. So there you go. The only books that can exist right now are the ones Kiyomaru liberated. So Gash, Consumatio, and perhaps Zara's book are all accounted for. It seemed that way, yeah. So the books don't correspond with all the coffins. Stebo Gameboy, glad to catch a stream live. Hey, thanks for coming in. I think I remember your name from when you subscribed, I feel like, if you did. Hope you enjoy the discussion here. I'm still going through the chapter because it's a very dialogue heavy chapter. But then we're going to get into some discussion. Tio, when Megumi Omi arrived with the book, you were able to cast your spells again. How did that make you feel? At the time, there was no spell it would have been more grateful to have. She's talking about Syphogio. But when it came to the fight, they still had us beat. We saw she did not get any attack spells back. Yes, and if 27 more books had been restored, then assembling the wielders of those books would be a crucial step if we are to have any hope at all against Belial and his army. So, this was the way a lot of people thought the story would go, right? We need to go around and assemble the resistance here, including the humans. And that's what we're going to do. The question is, how many more of these Momoto will be brought from the demon world? Could they possibly find a Momoto in the headquarters here, the Dragon Fort, and say, you're one of the chosen ones? I don't know how they would know that. Come with us back to the human world and we'll find your partner. Maybe, maybe not. But it looks like that's going to be a big part of the plot, is gathering the resistance. While there may be a few remaining demons with enough physical strength to fend off attackers without their use of spells, like Barry, I fear it will not be enough. But if we leave to go to the human world, what does that mean for the demons here who need our help? I pretty much leave a comment on all the videos. Oh, I assume I've responded to those unless YouTube didn't tell me about them, which would be mean of YouTube. I try to respond to everything. It's true that rescuing other demons takes top priority. And I am aware, Gashintio, that there is nothing our fellow demons desire more than to see you, the beacon of hope who was thought to have perished, appear before them with your spells at the ready. I can think of no greater way to boost morale and inspire even the most weary of warriors to rise forth with courage in their hearts. Yes, as it has already inspired many. Asheron's finger looks like he put a bugle on it. Those little snacks that you put in your fingers. Next page. But we mustn't forget, Belial is still attempting to target those books and their wielders whom he has now perceived as a threat. Yes, he's going after the top 10, at the very least. Exactly. In fact, he's already dispatched some of his forces to the human world to go after Megumi. Yeah, it's a safe bet that other demons who participated in the battle for King are in just as much danger. I don't know if I mentioned this before, by the way. Quick tip, opinion from me. If you were ever doing a reading of anything, a screenplay, a manga, or something, if you're reading it out loud to people, never pitch up your voice for a female character. It is so cringe. It is so cringe. Just use whatever voice makes sense. Some advice from me on that. You can pitch up your voice if it's a real certain type of character, but still do it in a certain way. You know the kind of voice I'm talking about. The kind of child would use to make fun of another child. Don't do that. It takes you right out of it, I found. And I know from being part of a screenwriting club when I went to college that this was pretty conventional wisdom among people there, that you would just use something more akin to your regular voice. Anyway, do you see now, Tio? Our fallen king and his book wielder have appeared to us now, after all that seemed lost in despair had sunk in. We simply cannot afford to waste the miracle that we have been given. Of course, we will also redouble our efforts in rescuing the others. We shall pool all of our resources in reinforcing our chain of command and devote all of our time to assisting demon survivors. Tia nods. You knew that we will make our way back to the human world and round up the human partners and their spellbooks. Until then, I'll leave the demon world in your care, Asheron. But there might be times when we'll need all the help we can get. We need a way to communicate between both worlds at any moment. When it comes to stuff like that, how much power do these books actually hold? That's something we'll really need to plan out, especially with Kiyomaro here to guide us. more addressing of the concerns I had with last chapter. Last chapter, I said now that Raikou is using the books to teleport people in between worlds, we need to have it explained what are the limits of their power, what can they do, what are they exactly, at least a little more than we know right now. This is more hinting that that is going to happen soon. Possibly next chapter, I think, is going to be another lore-heavy chapter. Zashville Gamer says, why can't Acheron be king? He seems like he was made for it. If Gash and Acheron can be co-kings, I'd be down. Well, obviously, he was very close to winning. And it seems like the Dragon Clan sort of do revere him as a king-like figure. We had a bit of a discussion about this last month, if you remember, over the interpretation of the last few pages of the chapter. But no, Acheron is fine with being the leader, and he didn't win. So there you go. All right, and I shall assemble the clan leaders of each district in the demon world. This I can't wait to see. This is going to be so cool. Now, I don't want to get too excited about it, but I would love to see like all these different clans related to like Momoto that we know. There were a few I speculated about on Discord. There could be like, let me think, what were some of the ones I thought of? There could be like an insect clan, like Rops. There could be like a horse clan, which would be Polygon and Carudio, sort of part of the same clan, right? There could be a lizard clan, which wouldn't be the dragon clan. So Zobron would be a part of that, and I thought maybe Bago would be a part of that, who was very dragon-like. But I thought it would be funny if he wasn't a dragon. I thought there could be like a Robo clan, like Coral Q and Robnos, among others. So I think if we do see this meeting, which is possible we might not, I hope we do, there's a lot of potential for a little world building of what are these clans. We're not going to see all of them, you know. Maybe we are. He says each district. So, what does that even mean? I don't know. We could be learning a lot next chapter. So, Zatch asks, can we call the wisest member of the Dragon Clan to this spot here? There's something I need to ask them about. Something to ask. And what might that be? I need to know about the location of the Thunder Dragon egg. Big. We're going to talk about it. Not yet. Very well. I understand. I shall contact Elder Mirage. Meanwhile, France in the human world. All right, then where else? Where else is there a France? I don't know. Big mansion. We're home. Mama. Hey, there she is. Mama. I won the tennis tournament today, and I got a 100 on my cram school test. I think someone said the writing is in French here on this test. I can't really see it, but I assume they're probably right about that. So who are these kids talking to, huh? We see who they're talking to a little bit. We see her in this panel here. It's a beautiful lady, proper, and with unmistakable, what do you call them? The Ojo-sama braids or curls. The mother that these kids are talking to. Well done, you two. Always giving your very best, and you never cease to make me proud. Now, this, of course, is Sherry Belmont, partner of Brago. And you can tell by the ribbon, by the curls, by the skirt that it is her. Looking well, is apparently a mother to 3 kids. Going by what we see here, there has been much speculation about it. We'll get into it right now because that is the end of the chapter, chapter 16. That was a really long reading. We're almost up to an hour already, but there's a lot to discuss. So let's get into it. We're going to see Brago next chapter, Justin says. Very possible. Also, not 100%, though. Raikou might sort of decide to take a different tack with this story. I think what we're at least going to see is more of this lore discussion in the Momoto world, which I think is going to continue, unless Raikou really wants to get them back to the human world now, which would be pretty funny to see, because now there's stuff in the Momoto world that I want to see happen. So it would be pretty funny if next month I'm like, why did Raikou send them back to the human world so quick? What the hell? What is he rushing towards? Which would seem contradictory of what I said in the past. It wouldn't really be, but it would still be kind of funny. And then I think in the second half of that chapter, we might possibly just see Sherry get attacked. But Sherry, not a terrible combatant on her own, and also someone who may have the foresight to home alone her mansion up a little bit to defend against intruders, right? She might have armed guards for all we freaking know. She's rich. How rich? I don't know, but she's rich. Should we start with Sherry, or should we go through the chapter sequentially? Now, a lot of the chapter we discussed while we were going through it. The two main points of discussion that we need to talk about are the Dragon Egg and Sherry. We'll talk about Sherry since we just got there. So, there's a tweet from Raikou that he tweeted, as you would with a tweet. You would tweet it. That's what you would do. Yuri says, "Thank you everyone for your impressions of Gash 2, episode 16. I won't give away any spoilers, but it seems like the last character that appears is causing a lot of controversy. I and all the staff will be rewarded by your feedback. Thank you very much." Now, the last sentence, we don't exactly know what phrase that was in Japanese. If he's just saying thank you for the feedback, if he's saying we're looking at it, we're considering it, I doubt it. I don't think anything's going to change based on this feedback. And I don't necessarily know what the full scope of this feedback is. You know, we see the feedback on Discord, those of us who are on the Discord. If you look up people on YouTube, there haven't been a lot of YouTube reactions to this chapter that I've seen. Unfortunately, a lot of the YouTube reactors, there used to be like 3 or 4. Last time I checked, there was only 1 that had put out their reaction this month, which is a little unfortunate because I do enjoy watching those for good chapters, which most of them have been good. So, you know, I don't think it can really be assumed what the controversy is necessarily, or what exactly Raikou and his team have seen. I can say that on our end, on the Discord, the vast majority of what we have seen are, is, you know, in general, speculation about Sherry's relationship status and her 3 kids, and more specifically, worries that she did not end up with Coco, her special friend from the previous series, who her entire goal was to save. So everyone is wondering about her relationship status. It doesn't matter what you think or if you ship Sherry with anyone. Now, as Zatch Gamer says, Sherry ships are pretty popular. I think in Japan, a Sherry Brago ship is more popular than it is in the US. Though Sherry Brago still gets shipped in the US, some people don't think that's right, as there was a pretty big age gap between them in the first series. I'm not going to pass judgment on that. Raikou himself has joked about it, referring to Brago as a tsundere. Some people have taken that to be factual, which who knows? Maybe he did mean it. I always thought it was a joke. I don't know. Zatch Gamer has seen people in English and in Japanese complaining about or hoping that Coco can still be the answer. So yes, there is the other Sherry ship of Sherry and Coco, which is something that I believe was mildly popular while the series was running. I think is even more popular now. And is also, I don't want to stoke fires, something that it would be a little more likely for Raikou to do these days. Do I think that there is a big chance that he will do it? No. Do I think there's a big chance he'll do Sherry Brago? Not really. I don't really think he's likely to do either of them, but he could do them. We know that he, either through some sort of heightened understanding, like the Answer Talker, or just through looking at forums or discussion, knew exactly what fans wanted Tia to be in this series, and he implemented that in it. Will he do the same with Sherry in some sort of relationship dynamic? I don't know. Will we find out next chapter? we'll find out a little more of her situation. I think these 3 kids are her 3 kids. Some of the people who are sort of, let's just say, coping with what's happening are saying maybe these are not her kids. Maybe they are 3 of many who she has adopted, and she runs an orphanage. It's possible for the kids to be adopted, but I don't think she's keeping these kids at arm's length, or these kids are correctly indicating that Sherry has or had a relationship with someone. I think that's true. I don't think there's going to be an explanation where it's, oh, Sherry actually never was with anyone. Was it a character from the series? Maybe. Was it some rando? If it was a rando, she's not with them anymore. I don't think Raikou would have Sherry's husband be a character and just be some dude. I think that would be bizarre. It could happen, but it would be kind of lame. That's something I think would be lame, is an explanation of, yes, Sherry is currently married and it's just some dude. I don't care if she's married to Robnos' partner. You know, I don't care. Like I just want it to be someone. I think it should be somebody. People have speculated it could be Dufort. It's not impossible. I always wanted Dufort to become a monk of some kind. I thought it would be neat. If we do see Brago come back, do you think it would be too soon since he was in second place for the battle? Not really, Justin. You know, I mean, all of the characters we've seen so far have placed very highly in the battle. And I do think it's somewhat funny that it does seem like if we are going to focus on Brago in the next arc, that Ponygon is once again getting shafted, as he did on the Bunko volume covers, where there was a big space between Zatch, Tia, Conchime, and then much later Ponygon. Brago was also much later, but Brago still got more of a place of honor, being second to last, with the last being the group shot of everyone. So Brago got a place of honor as the final enemy, sort of, you know, enemy rival. And Ponygon just got like a random photo art cover. You know. So if it was an orphanage, there'd be no mama. I think that's likely. Adoption is still on the table. Yes, I also think it's likely. I just don't think an orphanage is likely. Before we segue from the Sherry reveal, there's also now a theory going around that the kid in the back, who has a very different personality from the other 2 energetic kids, is actually Vino. I have not heard that. That's really interesting. I do want to discuss that kid a little bit, because I think just through showing this kid in basically a single panel, we're already building a story here, right? 2 kids, very excited, talking about their great achievements. Sherry compliments them. 3rd kid, standing in the back, not saying anything, looking kind of down. Sherry is not complimenting him because he didn't say anything. That's we're building a little story with these kids. These kids are characters. They're not going to be simply in danger. We're going to use them to use them. They're going to be a part of Sherry's story. They're going to facilitate her explaining her current situation, maybe some growth with her that still needs to happen. I don't know how likely that is. You know, people have speculated, has Sherry fallen to some of the same you know, bad sides of her personality that her own mother had, of being hard on her kids and having conditional love for them based on their achievement. I think there's ways that the plot could move that don't have that as an aspect of it. I think that kid maybe just has it in his own head that things are that way, right? Maybe the kid isn't as big of an achiever as the other 2, but maybe Sherry does still give him unconditional love. Maybe she does love him just as much as the other kids, but he doesn't believe that, which is something that can happen. You know, maybe there are other things going on there. It does seem, just from what you can glean from this, that the kid is just either not as big an achiever or still so morose that he doesn't care to discuss his achievements with Sherry. That's what I think. It's not impossible that Raikou could say, Sherry's still got a lot to learn, and she's maybe neglected this kid a little. Maybe she's very busy. We'll see. Right? He's written about parents like that before. Kyo's dad. But for the kid to be Vino, that would be really interesting. I think whenever Vino shows up, it's going to be super interesting. I'm really interested to see what kind of state Vino's going to be in. Was it ever said that Dr. Riddles was going to take care of Vino at the end of the series, or was that just something that I thought would be cool? Or was that actually said? Seems like if anyone is adopted, it's the kid in the back. But yes, Dr. Riddles was looking after Vino at the end. I think it was a temporary solution. Yeah, that's what I thought. So either that could still be going on with Dr. Riddles still looking after Vino, or the situation's changed and Vino is somewhere else. Maybe Duffert's looking after him. I don't know. In any case, the Sherry situation has caused a lot of conversation, called controversy by Raikou. And while I don't think it's possible for Raikou to please everybody, I do want to say, as I've said on the Discord, that he has not really messed up so far in terms of bringing these characters back in ways that make them out really well and really impress and excite fans of those characters. If you remember, there was a lot of speculation when Conchime appeared. Why did he run away? Why was he a coward? Blah, 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 blah. And that was in the next chapter, immediately reversed. Conchime and Fulgore were portrayed in a really great light. And I was joking that there should be some public apologies from the people who had doubted Raikou for what he would do with Conchime. So going with that, going with how he did Tia in the sequel, which he did to massive acclaim, I find it hard to believe that he is going to do something to piss off big aspect of Sherry's fans. Of course, given that he's the creator of the character who sees some of this happen, it's possible that he might have strong feelings about one or both of these ships and want to strike them down, in which case people are going to be mad. We'll really just have to wait and see if that happens. I think Raikou does want to please his fans, even the ones who think things that he may not have planned or may not agree with. So I think Sherry's going to be portrayed in a way that a lot of people will be happy with. Vino might be 13 and 14 right now, about the age Kyo was at the start of this year, according to Zatch Gamer. So beyond that, let's go back and talk about the most interesting part of the chapter. To me, the Thunder Dragon Egg. Now, this is something a lot of us have been waiting for, because it looks like our first hint at the dragon on the cover of Volume 1, which is like a smaller, cuter, nicer Bowserkerga with wings and maybe feet too. I think it had feet, right? Thunder Dragon Egg, young-looking dragon, those two things seem related, right? How are they related? Well, there's a lot of options. The egg could be more of an artifact. I think Ryuta-kun, who is, you might say, a leading theorist in the field of Zatch theory crafting, I think says the dragon's not going to hatch from the egg, but the egg is going to be a magical item that grants thunder magic that Zatch can then use. Excuse me. I'm talking for a while. That Zatch can use to create the Thunder Dragon. I kind of do think it might just hatch into this thing. We don't know how any of this works. And I really look forward to learning, because something that fans of the series, and even me, I don't view myself as too much of a theory crafter or speculator. Even I have often wondered, what is the deal with these spells that sort of seem to have a life of their own when they're cast? Seeing Pendulum Farga, Bowserkerga, Rao Deboran, Mikorama Zagaruga. Do I need to humble brag anymore that I remember some of these spells? I don't know. How about Shinkaria Sonosu or Shinkaria Sonosu Zara Fedora or Shinkaria Sonosu Badare Rugo? How about those three? Especially Zara Fedora, who was a guy named Zara Fedora that looked like Belgium EO and sat on a big chair and controlled this cannon. And then Shin Korea, who seemed to take over clear at the end and enact his own will. What's the deal with those spells? Where do they come from? Were they creatures that once existed freely and were bound into being spells? Are these creatures the source of Momoto's magic? In what form do they exist in the Momoto world as they are now? Seems like they do exist in a sense. The Thunder Dragon Egg. Is that the source of Bowser-Karaga? Was Bowser-Karaga something that was born at one point? It's a lot of questions. I could hold the spell, it may be that dragon we saw on the cover. Exactly what I'm saying. And I'm really excited about it. This is one of the things I've been the most curious about since we saw that dragon, is how are we going to meet this dragon? I speculated that Kyo would attempt to use the same kind of sorcery that the enemies were using, and that would then end up creating the dragon or even turning Zatch into the dragon. I still think that that's pretty likely. But it seems like it's not going to be the source of this dragon. And, we also have to think that this dragon likely is not a replacement for Bowser-Karaga, because the real Bowser-Karaga does still exist. We were shown it very clearly that it's now trapped, and it may excuse me. It may be used against us in the future. So, super, super exciting. I think we can expect at least a little bit more lore from the next chapter. I think it would be cool if Raikou showed this full meeting with the clan leaders. But he might decide to focus more on Sherry. And if he does decide to focus more on Sherry, then we might see Braga show up at the end of the next chapter. Maybe with a beard. We will see. But, we don't know where Brago is. He's as strong as Barry, so he's likely strong enough to fight some of these enemies on his own, even without spells. I can't wait to see how Belial plans to keep the devouring power of Bao against the caster at bay. Yeah, it might just be that he needs a caster powerful enough to use it, which might be he himself. There's still so much mystery surrounding him, how he got his powers, how the cards work. But one thing that is very clear from this chapter is that his whole operation is sort of hinged on him being extremely powerful and being able to control these henchmen. That dude, once Barry beat him, betrayed Belial at the drop of a hat because he had no real allegiance to him. He gave him a body and then immediately put him in servitude to hunt down Momoto. It doesn't really engender the most trust. I kind of think that it will have something to do with Belial believing, Zatch Gamer says, that what he's doing is proper and just, so it could be spun as righteousness and not evil. It could definitely be possible. Belial definitely seems pretty evil with how he's treating his own people, but his base beliefs may still be based on something that the Momoto did in the past to his people. I don't know. Asheron mentions an Elder Mirage. I do kind of wonder if that's maybe the dragon that was at Zatch's coronation and kind of like declared him to be king, coronated him. I think it is a word. I looked it up. It's possible, but I don't know. Is there anything else to talk about? There's a lot of speculation on who are the 27. I know Ryuta-kun made his own list of who he thinks they're going to be. I don't need to go through all that. I think there's reasons to think that Rops will be involved. because we saw a coffin that looked like him. But then there was also a coffin that looked like Tia, and Tia's still alive. So, is the coffin still connected to her? Is it connected to someone else? Or was the book from that coffin always destined to be Tia's book? It seemed like the book only turned into Tia's book when it was given Tia's spell element from Levy. We don't know if that book was meant to be Tia's book. The 15 character covers from the Kanzenban are pretty good choices, since Raikou appears to be basing his Zatch Bell 2 covers off of those. Yes, he does. However, let's say Braga was the focus of the next arc. Braga was not on volume 4 of that. I don't remember who was on volume 4, but it wasn't Braga. So things may be changing there. He gives a card sorcerer volume cover. That's also definitely possible if we get a villain that is big enough. And there definitely were villains who made those covers, obviously, several of them. At the very least, Victorine. Did Zophis get a cover? I don't know if Zophis got a cover. Victorine, Xeno got covers. Was there any other villains that got covers? Victorine stole Zophis' cover. Okay, right. Beyond that, I think we might have to cut it off right here. It's getting more difficult for me to talk. I'm coughing a lot. But it was a good chapter overall. It addressed a few of my concerns where the story is going. And I think, if Raikou can just continue to pace it well, I'll just say, like, hey, last month's, it wasn't that good for me, but it wasn't an indicator of anything in particular. I've always had trust in Raikou, and I think that trusting in Raikou is something that the people who are concerned about Sherry should be doing right now. I do believe we have one more chapter left, volume 3, if my hunch is right. That's a lot of chapters for these volumes. Isn't that more than most monthly manga have 4 chapters per volume? So you're saying these have like almost 6? Question outside of Saifoja, what other spells do you think Tio got back? I don't know if she got many of them back. We know she had Saifojo, Sayoshi, and Masa Shield. It seems to me like those spell elements contain a specific number of spells. And the only way that you can get more spells out of them is to absorb their power, like the cards have done at great physical cost to themselves. So I think we may have seen every spell Tia has right now. Volume 2 had 6 chapters. Those must be pretty beefy volumes, I guess, huh? So next month, if we get a chapter next month, I hope we do. I think we'll get quite a bit more lore. And if we get a heavy focus on that, we might finish that meeting and see Zatch, Kyo, Megumi, Tia, someone else, who knows, return to the human world. Or we might have more of a focus on Sherry, where we're going to learn about her kids. We're going to learn about her relationship status. I think we're going to see Coco no matter what. We're going to see what Coco's up to in the present time. I'm sure they still know each other. I'm sure they live in the same town. Or maybe Coco did go off to college, which was always her dream. And maybe she is somewhere else and having a successful career. But Sherry and Coco are BFFs at the very least, which, y'all can think whatever you want. But that's what we know. And I do think we're likely going to see Coco next time. Raikou fed us with this chapter when the fan base was dealing with the sad news of having the RPG game closed beta being delayed until October. Yeah, sad news, also maybe good news, because it means, I believe they said that a lot of people have applied for that game, right? Next month, we may have some news and/or gameplay footage of that. Even if there's no chapter, that will be very nice to see. I mentioned last month that I wanted to do a video on the game. I still do, but it keeps kind of slipping my mind. I just want to discuss it in general and what my expectations are of it. You can definitely expect videos on the game that are not these live streams, you know? Um, I don't think I have like a good setup to like record footage of me playing the game, which Zatch Gamer is going to do. And even if I did, I have to wait until the actual release for that and not the closed beta test, which I don't have access to. But it's still going to be something I'm very, very interested in. I'm always interested in gacha games that come out around series that I really, really, really like, which doesn't often happen. Sometimes they do happen, and I just don't have time to get into them. There was a Mob Psycho 100 one that ran for a little bit. I said I'm too focused on everything else I'm doing right now. Gacha games take a ton of your time. For a long time, Fate Grand Order has been the only gacha game that I play. Zatch Bell, if anything can get me out of that, it's Zatch Bell. Even One Piece, which I love, has not had I haven't played the gachas, which there's several gacha games for that. Stebo Game Boy's hopes for some of the 27 are Wanrei, Danny Boy, Layla, and Barago. Yes, I think among fan favorite characters that did not get too much to do in the first series, Danny and Layla are very strong possibilities for returning. Very strong. They were big fan favorite characters in the original series. Everyone is going crazy over Luffy's fifth gear. Yeah, it debuted in the anime, and is now being filtered into all other kinds of One Piece media. Just tonight I was playing Pirate Warriors 4, which has a DLC of Gear 5 Luffy. But yeah, fifth gear is something that is very unique for One Piece, and really highlights Ichiro Oda's mandate of always having One Piece be fun, which is inspired by Dragon Ball, and being one of his core inspirations, which was a series that itself had issues with the author making it serious and then realizing, well, I don't really like it being so serious. And then in the last saga of that series, the Boo Saga, it got back to being a little more comedic. So Gear 5 is really interesting. It actually in the newest One Piece manga chapter, he's now using it again. So we're going to see a little more of that. Speaking of One Piece, the live action I think has been really good. I feel like last month I think may have been when it just released, and I may have seen like a couple episodes at that point. I finished it very shortly after that. I enjoyed it quite a lot. It's funny because when I hear the writers talk about it, I often think of them as being like kind of cringe. I have a big issue with that, of like having a tendency in my mind to like want to gatekeep how people talk about things, but I can't let that actually come out, because I'm not actually that kind of person. I just want people to enjoy things the way that they enjoy them. But then there are a lot of times I think, well, you're talking about this the wrong way. You're enjoying this the wrong way. And there are some times where I think, oh, I know I'm right about this. No, they really shouldn't be doing that. And then there are other times where I think that's just me feeling a certain way, and I know their love for this thing is very justified and the same as mine. There's no such thing as a true fan. I mean, there's not. You can hardly ever say that one person is a better fan of one thing than another person. And so a lot of discussions around the One Piece live action have made me feel some type of way. But clearly they do have a good group of people working on that, because the show ended up really good. Just like anyone, I have a few things that I miss. I have a few issues with it. But overall, I liked it, and I was always pretty optimistic about it. Ever since the start, I just got this vibe that these people knew what they were doing. And I would not pin that fully on Ichiro Oda being involved, which some people have been doing, saying, well, it's, the only reason it's good is because Oda was involved. No, I think that's part of the reason it's good. I think they also do just simply have a good staff of actors, writers, production designers, which I think is one of the show's best qualities. I think if anything is going to be nominated for an Emmy for the show, it should be production design. The sets for the show are amazing. They are mostly real and not CGI. They're really fabulous. Yeah, watch it if you're interested in Zatch Bell Gamer. It's a great way to get into the series. But it was announced for season 2. I'm very excited for that. I'm willing to wait for it, though I think the wait may not be quite as long as from the announcement of this of the series 2, the premiere of season 1. We do have to wait for the writers and actors strike to end, though, before they can continue working on it. But once that's done, I'm really excited to see a higher budget live action One Piece. I'm excited to see crazier characters like Chopper, however they decide to do Chopper. I'm sure they'll pick the best way. And I'm excited to maybe see more stars in the cast. I know Jamie Lee Curtis has discussed joining the series, playing Chopper's mentor, Dr. Kureha, his second mentor, which would be really neat. I'd love to see some other more well-known actors in there just because it's fun. But all the actors that they have hired have been great. So I wouldn't mind, seeing them continue to use newcomers too. And that's really exciting. Live action Zatch Bell, when? Let's go. That would be a Japanese production if they ever did do it. I wouldn't entirely mind seeing that. Tim Curry's Blackbeard. Well, that would be interesting. He did play Long John Silver in The Muppets Treasure Island, didn't he? I don't really know if I've ever seen that full movie, but I know he did that. But yeah, Zatch Bell live action. I mean, let's think about it. Let's make that the homework. Maybe we'll discuss it next month. What do you think would happen in Zatch Bell live action? Oh man, Tim Curry would be Ivankov. Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's very old and doesn't act anymore, but his spirit will still exist in One Piece, even if he's not in it. He's great. He's a great actor. Okay, I think that's it for this month. Thanks for sticking with me. We had a great number of people in the chat this week. I love chatting with all you guys. I love reading the chapter. And yeah, I'm glad I can do streams for this long and possibly longer, because Lord knows eventually we'll have long streams or long, about who knows what. That'll happen eventually. I would love for there to be more Zatch Bell content that I could do streams about or whatever. But for now, that's going to be it. So thanks for tuning in. And if there's a chapter next month, I'll see you on the stream for that. If not, maybe I'll be making another video about the game or something else. For now, though, I'll see you guys later. Have a good night.